The day has finally come. I'm doing another MSM Composer speculation video. I know I said I won't be doing speculations for Rare Vocalists, but the more that I thought about it, the more that I wanted to do it, so here we are. But I can assure you that I won't be doing epic vocalist predictions until we get Rare Vocalists, if that would even happen in the first place. Anyways, I went about this video a bit differently than I did with the rest of my Composer speculation videos. I strongly believe that they won't be changing the actual voice actors for most, if any of the monsters on the list, so I've decided to put these vocalists into categories in which I foresee them getting changes. These categories are as follows: different words, held notes, single syllables, overlapping notes, and uncategorized ones. I was unable to come up with ideas for a handful of the vocalists, so the ones that won't be mentioned in this video are Faircorn, Fwog, and Gelbilly. If you all have any ideas for these monsters, let me know in the comments below. But without any further ado, let's start with the first category. So for the different vowels category, I'll speed through this one since it's pretty self-explanatory. I will be basing these vowels off of other vowels that these monsters have said in the main game, so let's start off. Firstly, we have Rare Toe Jammer. I think the second most popular vowel that they say is either Wah or Wop, which are present in Air and Bone Islands respectively. Wah could allow for held notes, while Wop would most likely just be short notes, so I would personally go with Wah. Secondly, we have Rare Mammoth. Same logic from Rare Toe Jammer applies here for Rare Mammoth, but instead the vowel is either A or O. I personally would go for A because it's a louder sound that fits the vibe of Rare Mammoth more in my opinion. Thirdly, we have Rare Cybop. Since this common counterpart has a split staff, Rare Cybop probably would as well, leading us to need to pick two vowels. So that leads me to say that his next two vowels would be Shoom and Bop, based off of his water island sounds. Next, we have Rare Octopus. Once again, common octopus has a split staff, so I chose to go with Shoo and Wei, which are both used on Water Island. Next, we have Rare Pom Pom, who has quite the broad vocabulary. It's hard to choose just one sound, but I might have to go with the no sound. I would have chosen Yay, but I didn't want to double up on the E sound for held notes. And finally, Rare Grumpire. For this grumpy dude, I decided to go with Boom and Da, which are present on Ethereal Island. Now that we've got that out of the way, allow me to discuss the held note category. Firstly, we have Rare Hula. Now, I know, held notes are the least of our worries, but saying that by some miracle, Rare Hula is the slightest bit usable, I could see her yays having the ability to be extended, since we hear that within her track on Seasonal Shanty. Secondly, we have Rare Wisp. To me, Rare Wisp is more than likely to be able to hold notes, which is why I was surprised to see that they couldn't when the ethereals were added to the Composer app oh so many years ago. I also thought that we could see them get an echo or reverb effect added to make them sound more accurate to their in-game sound, but it could be a bit difficult for the monster handlers to implement those types of sounds into the game. Make sure to check out my natural epic prediction video if you want to know why. And finally, I think we could see Rare Kazillion get held notes. In the main game, he holds out his do, but there is a slight issue. In the Composer app, he suffers from a split staff, the upper half consisting of the vowel Wop, which doesn't particularly lend itself to long notes. So to me, this means that they'll have to either find a way to hold out both vowels, or make the full staff just do's. Or maybe they would just use a completely new and unheard vowel to accommodate for this, who knows. Now, let's talk about single syllables. If you've seen any of my previous commentary videos on MSM Composer, you probably know that I have a grudge against monsters who have 2-in-1 notes, which, for example, mean they say something such as wah wah instead of just a simple wah. This is a fairly simple concept, so let me speedrun through these monsters. Firstly, we have Rare Maw, who could say D instead of DD. Secondly, we have Rare Punkleton, who is not only a 2-in-1 but also a split staff. So for him, it could either be Hu and Ga, Boo and Ga, or even Hu and Boo. And finally, we have Rare Nebulob, who could just say shove, but I suppose Ba is also an option as well. This one will take a little bit of explaining, but it's really quite simple. So what I mean by overlapping notes is the idea that when a monster plays a note, its audio track doesn't get cut off by the next note, which would lead to them producing a unique sound. I know you can technically already do this by extending the note length, but it's not the same as having the note naturally fade out. With that explained, let me present the 3 monsters in which I think could have this ability. These 3 monsters would be Rare Potbelly, Rare Dainty Doo, and Rare Schmooshel. The reason why I chose these 3 are due to them all having 2 heads, so design-wise it makes complete sense. Outside of that though, I don't have much else to say. And now, we've made it to the part of the video that will probably take the longest. That is because we're in the uncategorized section, which contains a bunch of random ideas. With that said, we might as well get started with the first monster. For Rare Tweedle, I took heavy inspiration from its flute-like ears, which led me to think that Rare Tweedle's sound could be a vox flute or some sort of airy vox. I think that this would be a really fun and creative way to incorporate a new sound into the game without venturing too far off from what would make sense both design-wise and sound-wise. For Rare Sponge, I spent a while trying to think of how I could change a whistling monster, which led me to ponder other ways of using our voice box melodically without actually singing. After a while, I realized that humming was just the thing I was thinking of. I just have zero idea on how they would give it that sponge feel without it drifting too far from the sounds of sponge that we all know and love. The only other thing I'll say is that to those of you saying, well, Sponge can't hum because it doesn't have a nose, I'd like to direct you to Mammoth, who clearly is humming and has no nose himself. Anyways, next monster. Now, let's talk about Rare Antbrat. My idea for this dude is more self-explanatory, so allow me to say that I think it would be pretty nice to have Antbrat's voice from Cloud Island be brought back. It was such a shocker to hear his sound on Cloud Island when it first came out, due to it being so mellow and calm. So I think to have that again, but in the Composer app, would be amazing to see, because the Antbrat sounds we have right now are kinda goofy and difficult to use. Next up, we've got Rare Chorister, which is definitely a monster I could have gone a few ways with. But in the end, I decided that I'd really like to see a feminine voice be represented in Rare Chorister's Composer sounds. In its design, we can see at least 2 of the heads rocking some pigtails. In its design, we can see at least 2 of the heads rocking some pigtails, which tend to be a feminine hairstyle. With that said, I think it would be really interesting to get a better listen of how Chorister's female choir would sound by themselves. This could definitely open the door to new ways of using the Composer app, along with possibly even some new sounds in the Chorister tracks if we ever get any more in MSM or Dawn of Fire. Rare Blabbit was a fairly easy one to brainstorm, but looking at it now, I think that it really could go one way or another with whether it works or not. My idea is that Rare Blabbit would make a pitched bubble popping sound since it would be in character for them to make such a sound. From someone who has arranged a lot of music, I found that pitched bubble pops are unusually common, so to have this type of sound in game would be a relief. And finally, let's wrap things up with my final prediction, which ironically enough feels like it's my weakest idea of the video. For Rare Yule, since it's both a percussionist and vocalist, I think it could make both a chime-like sound along with saying ha instead of ho. For the chimes, I think it could either be tubular bells or, more fittingly in my opinion, the little chimes that dangle and ring out for a long time. I have no clue what that instrument name is, but I totally should know, my bad. Anyways, I chose ha as Rare Yule's vocals since ho 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 is Santa's or Yule's way of laughing. So ha would fit just as well, plus having laughter in MSM Composer could be gold. And with that being said, those are all of the vocalist ideas I have for you. Once again, just to reiterate, I am 99.9% sure that I won't be doing epic vocalist predictions anytime remotely soon, if at all, so there's no need to comment asking me to do so. But I'd like to see all of your thoughts on my predictions, along with your own ideas as well. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in my next video. See ya.